Welcome to the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. Today we're talking about the Dwarf Planet Ceres and the Moon, and my guest is Sue Rose Minahan from Talk Cosmos. Hi Sue, how you doing?
Oh, hi, Liz. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for joining me and starting this new series on the dwarf planets.
Very exciting. A near and dear subject for me for a long time, and I know we both studied with Alan, so thank you.
You're welcome. So to get a hold of Sue Minahan, you can reach her at her website talkcosmos.com, and you can reach me at alightpath.com. And we always enjoy hearing from everybody. So please reach out at any time. So we're going to start with the Dwarf Planet Ceres. Here's a picture taken from the NASA's Dawn Spacecraft when they were exploring Ceres. And I don't remember the years, but I know I have it on a slide after this that'll tell the years that they were out there exploring. So we have some random facts about Ceres. Her orbit is 4.6 years to travel through the entire zodiac. She was discovered on January 1st, 1801, by Giuseppe Piazz. She's named after the goddess of agriculture, fertility, harvest. Ceres was thought to be the missing planet at the time she was discovered. She was the first point discovered in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And here we have the dates that NASA's Dawn spacecraft was orbiting Ceres was 2015 to 2018. And it is believed that Ceres came from the outer solar system and was pushed into the asteroid belt.
Very much like her myth that we'll go over the fact that
Yes.
she walked on Earth. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm.
So is Ceres an asteroid or a dwarf planet? Well, in 1801, when she was discovered, she was classified as a planet. However, she was too small to be a planet and reclassified as an asteroid. Discovered in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, an inner dwarf planet, the mother of the asteroids. In 2006, she was reclassified as a dwarf planet with Pluto and Eris because of its planet-like qualities. She is bigger in size than any other asteroid and has different qualities. Even though, many people look at her as an asteroid, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong, but now she is classified as a dwarf planet, so we can kind of look at her in some new ways.
Well,
Do
I
you have any thoughts on that, Sue?
well, I do. I think that it's like you can be either or both, such as our society is gravitating towards, along with the 200 years of the Grand Conjunction in air that says that there's community focus. Certainly, science has its best attempt to classify through its understanding at the present time. My point being that it would be a misnomer or I think an error to refuse acknowledging how she's been re-identified as a dwarf planet. She is in that belt and she has a singular identity in the sense that all the rest are past Neptune. So there can be that mix. And interestingly, in her mythology, she does share a mixture. So it's okay to say if you need that she's an asteroid. However, you must, in my opinion, recognize that she is a dwarf planet as primarily. I mean, to say she's not is kind of like saying there aren't any planets beyond Saturn.
I kind of look at her as both, and her orbit is very much like the asteroids. It's, a few
Mm-hmm.
years, 3 to 6 years, where the dwarf planets can be hundreds or thousands of years.
Well, perhaps I like this list because then she could be a hybrid. And that's a lot like the moon that we have, that she's the higher octave of. Because the moon is our personal satellite, our personal planet. So, yes, this is good. I will accept that.
So Ceres was discovered on January 1st, 1801, in Palermo, Italy. And When they discovered her, she was at 29 degrees of Taurus. And this is the
29 or 23? I say 23.
okay, it's maybe a 23. My glasses are dirty, I
Yeah,
think.
that's all
Thank
right.
you.
Yes. Well, we're still in Mercury retrograde. This is fair. I did the same a while back. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at the Sabian symbols.
Did we want to look at that chart just for a moment?
Sure.
Yeah, good. Because interestingly, she is directly in a square with Saturn. How interesting, because Saturn is the one that swallowed her father in the mythology, you know? And then her brother, Jupiter, along with their mother, released everybody. So where's Jupiter? Jupiter is in Leo, right close to the moon, which
Yes.
is her lower octave. So this is quite fascinating. And sextile. So she could be broadly sextile to both of those. Is that right?
Yeah, to the moon
Yeah.
and Jupiter, she's sextile.
Yeah, out of sign.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in sign, out of sign. Yeah. So there is that really dynamic between the hidden qualities. Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, so the Sabian symbols were channeled by spiritualist medium Elsie Wheeler in 1925 with the assistance of Mark Edmund Jones, an astrologer, occultist, writer, scriptwriter, and actor. Mr. Jones believed that Elsie had tapped into the ancient mind matrix. Each symbol is an image for each of the degrees of the zodiac. So there's like a short saying that makes up an image or it depicts something. And the Sabian symbols that we are using today are from the Astrological Mandala by Dane Rujar. So we're going to look at 24 Taurus. Do you want to read that, Sue?
Okay. And for those people, you can get these online. Taurus 24 degrees, because it's always one after. An Indian warrior riding fiercely, human scalps hanging from his belt. So it's this aggressiveness of human instincts fighting for our earthly base of operation.
It's like the noises want to come. It's like, it's okay. Ceres is talking to us, I think. So, in the mythology of early America, the Indian represents the savage, close to nature, and led by primordial instincts. Um, so, um, what is being confirmed here is the value of a group of men's differences from other groups. We are still in the period of differentiation. And it's the violence for survival. So Ceres is about nurturing. So that kind of goes in line with Ceres. What do you think?
It is quite abstract in a way, and it is quite literal in another way, because remembering that this is back from the discovery in 1801, where there's a gap of science and our greater understanding of how to see her identity. And really, in the story of mythology, her daughter is abducted, and there's different interpretations of that too, which could be seen as an act of violence. In the long run, this is an interpretation of our seasons of Earth, where it's and 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 our world does have its seasons of violence and etc. And in many ways, you could say that just the act of birthing out of the soil is a sense of violence to get out of the earth for birth. So it's there's a lot to look at this, but I think it's one basis of understanding, and the next will help uh, enlarge, enlarge our
Well,
thoughts.
and it's like the seed has to germinate or crack open. So, sometimes depending on what kind of seed it is, that can be kind of a violent act so that
Ex-
that can survive and
exactly.
grow.
Exactly. That was what, yes, I was thinking of that. And the other thing, that this is a very mundane situation. Ceres came to Earth and she disguised herself. I'm jumping ahead perhaps here, where in search for her daughter, with, as you could say, during winter when spring wasn't happening. But also, if we look back at the ancient times of mythology, the dinosaurs were 200,000 years. And then when the comet came, the very quickly, rapidly, the dinosaur existence over 200,000 years, it was a long time, was diminished. And so thinking that, yeah, there's great uh,
A big
Earth.
evolution.
Yes, and on Earth, that is part of the deal. We are part of matter. Yep. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, so I'm going to back up to May when Ceres stationed retrograde at 21 degrees Capricorn on May 14th of this year. And we can see her here circled in the purple color in the first house, but really close to the second house. And she's, pretty close to Pluto, but, a little ways away. And I'm not sure if she's making any other aspects to some other planets, but it's, kind of fun to just look at what she's been doing. And we can look at the Sabian symbol for where she was when she stationed retrograde at 22 degrees Capricorn, unless you want to say anything else about this chart.
I would say that it is interesting. I wouldn't have thought of this chart, but I appreciate it. Looking at just the numbers, if we look at that, she is in a 120 trine to both the Sun and Jupiter in Taurus. So it is of Earth. There is its expansiveness. And look at the whole stellium there. You've got Venus ruling in her own sign domicile, and then you have Uranus and the Sun and Jupiter. And of course, Jupiter and Uranus did get together on the 21st of May. And so there's that portending change of collaboration between nurturing, you could say, grief and loss, which it represents. But in addition, she has that adjustment quincunx of 150 degrees with the moon at 22 degrees Leo, meaning that that's ruled by the sun. So there's perhaps some emotional discord that is trying to get refocused. Yeah.
Well, and we've had a lot of natural disasters with fires and floods and, tornadoes and hurricanes. So it's been, all this change, the earth change is happening. So that fits
Absolutely.
right in, if you ask me.
It does. And I will say, too, that Ukraine represents the breadbasket. And as we know, it's been 3 years now that there's been that war. I think it's 3 years, which is sort of incredible to think. It's a long time. Because it was just on the Democratic convention last night. Biden is saying that it's been, yeah.
Boy, that time has gone by quick. It doesn't seem that long. So we're going to take a look at this 22 Capricorn for where Ceres stationed retrograde. Do you want to talk about that one, Sue?
Well, we can explore it. I think information is good. It adds to the pot of understanding a belief. 22 degrees of Capricorn for the Sabian symbol is by accepting defeat gracefully. A general reveals nobility of character. This spells it out. This is great because it's a realization that one grows through defeat. It's like creation, destruction and create, like Kali, or really like the moon going through its cycles, or in this story of vegetation, and perhaps more than man through success. I'm seeing this as in the myth, Ceres, to find her daughter, left the heavens, came to Earth, which, Ceres is the Earth mother, and searched and wanted to have refuge and found it in this home of a king and queen with several children and raised the infant. But her attempt was to burn out its mortality and held this baby over a fire, or as it was growing up. And the mother, of course, eventually discovered it and was mortified. And Ceres then revealed herself. She had been disguising herself. The point is, she was defeated by that one purpose, but then later chose, when she finally was returned with her daughter, which wasn't instantly. There were other steps here. She taught the older son agriculture so that we could sustain ourselves.
Well, and what matters most is that inner strength to proceed forward. It's like if we don't have a challenge, sometimes we kind of stay the status quo because it's easy to stay the status quo. But when there's a challenge, it's easier to make a change.
Good point. And looking at the moon that she is the higher octave of, it goes from new moon through its phases. There's 4 to 8, depending on, there's 4 basic and 8 larger psych phases, back to the new moon, which is that seed growth. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at the mythology of Ceres. She's a goddess of agriculture, grain crops, cereal, harvest, earth, plenty, fertility, motherly relationships, grieving, and nurturing. Do you want to add anything to that part?
Oh boy, that says it very well, actually. I think there's always reading about it more and more, but it is that loss and return. I think that's all I would add, that is, and eventually rebirth through the illusion. Yeah, no,
So
that's good.
she's dedicated to her children. Her daughter Persephone or Proserpina was abducted by Pluto and taken to the underworld. She turned the world to winter, grieving and searching for her daughter, and it goes along with the Eleusinian mysteries.
And it's a huge part of her gift to humanity, because in researching this again, just to clarify all the information that I've absorbed over the time, her, when she lost her daughter and she disguised herself going across Earth, what other goddess has done that? You know, others may come here for a visit or whatnot, but in mythology, Ceres stands alone in that. I believe that she lived here on Earth and is the Earth Mother, because Demetra, which is her Roman or Greek equivalent, it comes from da matter, Damater, which means earth, of earth, meaning that when she finally received her daughter, and she happened to be in the city of Eleusis there, she taught these people her mysteries of the right. And it's only through experience that you can experience the experience of rebirth, you could say, which is an interesting factor because Christianity and many, many other current religions have this idea of being reborn. But it goes ancient. It goes back because the Eleusinian mysteries were performed as a rite for 2,000 years, from 1600 BCE to 400 Common Era. That's enormous.
And Ceres is associated with the poppy flower. It's symbolic of fertility. The seeds can be eaten, and you can make opium from it, and it promotes sleep and pain relief.
Yeah, it was. In reading about that, the poppy is for the pain and grief, but also corn. She is, her depiction is one of holding grain, which is corn, and her, a grain and a torch, because she was searching through the darkness, which also relates to the moon. But around her head was a wreath of corn and wheat. So yes, the poppy is included. That's right.
So it was really interesting when the U.S. and Russian prisoner exchange took place on August 1st. Um, and the time that I chose here was 11:44 from Washington, D.C. I believe it was NBC News report that's when it came out. So I used that time for this. And Ceres is opposite the moon and square the nodal axis. So a cardinal grand cross and cardinal energy is about initiating things. And then all the squares, it's like, you know, trying to work things out. So it was interesting that that exchange was happening, even though behind the scenes and, probably many months and even years, there was this negotiating going on. But it came to a point when this Cardinal Grand Cross was active that it was happening. So it's kind of indicative of that because, each country was probably mourning their people like Ceres would. And then the moon is representative of like a mother type or family, you could say. And then the nodes are, associated, they're the nodes of the moon. So it has a motherly component also there. So I just found it very interesting. Would you like to say anything about this chart?
I love the fact that you brought this chart up. Ceres is in it to me too. The moon and Ceres is indicative of phases, meaning that Ceres has been out of bound for, I'm not sure just when it started, but it's going to be out of bounds. That's be on the elliptical path of 23.26 latitude degrees from the equator, north or south, until January 25th, I think. Point being that it's been exact as a square, 90 degrees to the lunar nodes all during July, exact in August, and leading through to 2 weeks in September. So it's been a phase. So yes, I love astrology, how it shows that, as you were correct, this is not overnight. They've been wanting to release these people forever. Well, that's an exaggeration, but we, in our terms, for years, we had grind, the basketball star get released, but we had the military and other, the personnel that was still there for 5 years along with other people. And if I understand it, it took 24 different nations to coordinate this loss. Germany exchanged somebody that they'd held. It was a collaboration. It was really showing that the common need of all for this to happen. Looking at that, the nodes are in relationship signs, which they are for 18 months and will be until January, about the 21st. And yes, this phasal nurturing quality, that because August 1st is just when it starts being exact, like this month, between 7 and 8 degrees, Ceres with the nodes.
And then the moon phase here in this chart is at the balsamic. So it's like at the balsamic is tying up loose ends and finishing up some projects and maybe take some time out, even though, every month we have a balsamic phase, but it's just interesting that that's the phase of the moon that, the release is happening. So
Beautiful.
so
Good
many
point.
indicators here.
Yes, it's 13 degrees. Cancer is what it is. Um, 17 27 degrees, yeah, from the sun. Yes, thank you, Liz.
So we're going to look at the Sabian symbol for 10 Capricorn, an albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor, the overcoming of fear and its reward. And the key word is trust, and there's other things on here if you want to read them that you're more than welcome to read. But
Remind me, Liz, why are we looking at, I'm sorry about this, I know we've reviewed this, but why Capricorn 10? Is this because of the last chart, or
yes, that's where
Ceres was? Okay, very good. Back to the beginning. And maybe other people too, because we got so caught up with everything we were talking
well,
about.
and maybe it's for the next chart because I moved a chart around and maybe I got it out of order. Sorry.
No. This is Capricorn for Ceres, because it's always the one next. It was 9 degrees, but I hadn't seen 10 degrees. Let's look at that. An albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor. A sailor is out on the oceans all the time. And so this dynamic of overcoming fear to act, because a cardinal square is all about action. We both agree on that. I mean, astrology, it isn't whether it's conflict or not. It can be if your actions are too aggressive, perhaps, to overlook the other person. But I know in vibrational astrology, it just totally is action. And here with the wildest creatures, because Ceres represents the mistress art and the moon too. I'm thinking of the moon here with the wildness of life. Yes.
Well, and with all the different countries involved, it's like they all kind of had to trust each
Mm.
other that it was all going to work out. So it really goes along with that.
Perfect. Yes, for ideal, I'm reading this now, peace and happiness through culture. In other words, embracing the inclusivity of that we're all nurtured, which Ceres represents on Earth, where it's humanity or whether it's the wild things, which is 6th and 12th house. I love it. Thank you.
So, and here's the out of bounds when the declination's 23 degrees and 27 minutes north or south. Out of bound planets act on their own. And some of the issues that might be of issue is fertility issues, grief and nurturing, and women stepping up.
And that's for
Um,
Ceres, just to point out,
yes.
because you didn't put, yeah, but for Ceres, out of bounds Ceres. Okay.
And Ceres has been out of bounds since April 2nd
Mm.
until January 15th of 2025.
Good. I love the dates. I'll make a note of it. That's been a long time because you think of all the other powerful planetary pairs that's happened since April 12th. That's right after the equinox. And then again, it was in, come to think of it, wasn't in May, it was April 21st that Jupiter and Uranus conjunct. And then later, uh, outer planets have ingressed, like Sedna, into 0 degrees. Many changes. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of changes. And, even how we grow food and, what's healthy for us to eat and what's not healthy for us to eat. So there's like all kinds of things. And then, the environment and the earth changes going along too. So, and then I've been putting in the aspect key for those that kind of, when we're talking about aspects and their quality and a keyword for that. And you can download that off of my website and it's in the notes below. And then on August 16th, Ceres was conjunct the moon in T square, all at 7 degrees. So I just chose this chart to kind of illustrate that. And we've been talking about this. And like Sue said, it's been in effect July through September 15th within a 2-degree orb. So that's really close. And, even out 3 or 4 degrees, you're still probably going to feel it and sense it. So that's what I wanted to say. But then here, Ceres is conjunct the moon. And so moon and Ceres oftentimes are in constant communication with each other. Did you want to say anything more about this T square?
Excellent chart, Liz. And that for most of August, now we realize we saw the August 1st and Ceres was at 9 and the nodes were at 8 or something. But it started just shortly after that, I think, as of the new moon, because the new moon was about the 4th, I think, of the month, if I remember.
Yes.
And it was exact at 8 degrees. And then it shifted mid-month, such as now, to 7 degrees. So it's been exact, changing from 8 to 7 cardinal signs for the entire month. It doesn't change until, I'm not sure, it's the 30th, is at the very end of the month. And then it is back in orb of just 2 degrees. So it's powerful. And she's out of orb. And to have this conjunction between the two of them, along with the centaurs, as you have mentioned here, which is really a breakaway point. And look at the difference. Back in July, just as this nation, because it is an election year, not only did Biden, as you indicated, exchange on a worldwide term these prisoners exchange, but politically speaking, he took that month of July to determine, it took 29 days as of yesterday, the opening of the Democratic Convention, to determine that, it took less than that, to determine that he would relinquish his nomination to Kamala Harris, meaning that this is very much in focus. And I think Folis, perhaps as the bearer of Chiron's party demise, breaks things away. It's extraordinary.
Well, in T squared to those nodes, it's like I would ask, am I being nurtured in my relationships? And am I nurturing my relationships? Maybe I've outgrown my relationships. Maybe there's been a shift and it's like I need to nurture or get my nurturing somewhere else.
Very well supported, because I was just noticing as you were that Juno, the goddess of marriage, she was married to Zeus. However, also in other terms is our alliances, and that with our relationships can be with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
of course. So totally spot on, as we could call it. It's a very important ongoing factor. This is only what towards the last 12 days of August, so we have time to really work on this
Right, because this
relationship.
is in effect till September 15th within a 2 degree orb. So it's like there's plenty of time. And, we all grow in different directions and ways. It's like we could have went to a certain club and, that's just not so exciting anymore. Now we need to find a different group or club.
Yes, and Venus, which rules that south node, is in Virgo and quite analytical. So it's an excellent time as Mercury is looking both backwards and forwards as he retrogrades to
Analyze
analyze. Thank you. I was
or
thinking
review,
analysis. Yes.
review,
Return.
rethink.
Yep. All the yep. Redo. Very, yes, indeed.
So then we just had the full moon in Aquarius, and the cardinal T square is still in effect. Um, and see, the moon is
Oh, this is the full moon, Aquarius full moon, just
yes,
yesterday.
yes. So I just
Good.
just to show the difference, just some illustration here. I don't think there's much to say unless you have something that you want to say about this chart.
To remember, since we hadn't talked about the North Node, the lunar North Node that's at 7 degrees Aries, ruled by Mars. Mars has been conjunct Jupiter. It was several days ago, but it's very powerful in this chart also, as far as broadening, expanding our diversity and options, to choose from. It's a very dynamic
Well, and
time.
Mars can be pushing us to move forward, and Jupiter to expand that will assist and help.
Indeed, I know in my own life, how about you, Liz? Many directions, yes? Let me
Yeah,
choose the ways.
prioritize, and
Oh,
sometimes it's several times a day, just shifting and but sometimes it's not on a daily basis or even an hourly basis, but just prioritize what needs to be taken care of and then move on to the next one, and it gets done faster than you think sometimes.
well, it's a good point, because the patterns change. I'm thinking of Jupiter. As we get more information, it refocuses how to apply and how to make a pattern, which is a belief system. So it is a really mercurial, cardinal mercurial, breaking down the fix. It's complex and beautiful.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the moon now. Ceres is the higher octave of the moon. The moon is a personal planet and a luminary. The moon represents emotions, feelings, instincts, need for security, mother or mother figures, nurturing, femininity, personal self, unconscious, home, family, pregnancy, and soul, and it rules Monday.
I love in particular the cycle, the moon, reflecting that energy of the sun relates to the cycle, the beginning and ending, the return, and the process of living. And it is an emotional experience, because otherwise that's how we personalize things. We personalize it through our meaningfulness that it means to us, and how can we give to another. Very beautiful.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the mythology of the moon, and referring to the Greek mythology and Selene, goddess Selene, goddess and personification of the moon, sister of Helios, the sun. She drives a silver chariot drawn by two snow white horses across the sky, pulling the moon each night. So
Yes. Mm.
I thought that was really a cool saying. Do you want to say anything more about that one, or should we go on to the next one?
Well, Celine, yes. Reading about the moon goddesses, they're universal. And Celine is the totality at that time that she was brought in, that the Romans adapted, because there is a trilogy between, which we will get into. But it's interesting to realize that she represents from the waxing at the very new, fully to the waning of until the next moon. And the silver chariot, I know I was also reading that it could have been with ox, that because of the fact, I think, and that dates back to very ancient times, going before the Romans or even Greeks, because it was the age of Taurus, that was so much with the ox. Anyway.
Okay, and then we're going to look at the Roman mythology and Hellenistic religion. Greek goddess Artemis. Diana is considered a triple goddess, merged with the goddess of the moon, Luna, Selene, and the underworld, usually Hecate. Also known as the goddess of fertility, childbirth, goddess of the hunt, and goddess of wild animals.
Absolutely. Artemis. And Artemis goes way back to neo-paeology. Very, very ancient. And really brings forth so many dynamics of total womanhood and protector of wild things, and that sacred silence. Is it? No, maybe it was Hecate. That's a sacred silence. But this triple goddess is exact. I know we've discussed it much. You've brought up the fact, and I mean, I totally, it's agreeable that it's the maid, mother, crone. It's through the whole dynamics of our birth, infancy, to our menstruation, to motherhood, to menopause, to elder crone. It's all those phases, just like the moon does.
Yeah, the maiden, mother, crone.
Yeah.
And then we have the Greek mythology of.
One other thought. I was just reading too, because Artemis is a hunter, the goddess of hunting. When I think about it, she represents the crescent, right? That's how Diana and Artemis are. It's when that new moon becomes a crescent. And I was thinking it's like light chasing to become the full moon. So it is a matter of that hunt, looking at just from the aspect of light, which is more esoteric thought, but really a lot of astrology, and that dates, breeds from that concept of light, where it is on Earth, and how it works. Therefore, yes. And to focus. That's right. Pardon me making that noise. To focus. Yeah. So it's okay.
And then looking at the Greek mythology for the goddess Hecate, the guardian of doorways or crossroads. Hecate is goddess of the moon, night, magic, and the underworld. Presiding over spirits capable of good and evil, she can protect and or cause harm.
If I might paraphrase, yes, because it's always a matter of interpretation, but it's with that idea that in order to have creativity, that destruction has to occur, that there is that time that allows also for compassion. So therefore, it is acknowledging, just like the moon, in order to have a new moon cycle beginning, it must end. So there's the crescent that wanes, such as right now in the earlier chart that you gave, where the moon is in its balsamic phase. And so we can see it as harmful and get judgmental, but I think if we step back and see it as a cycle that feeds, like the lily, it falls away and it comes, rebirths. Oh goodness, like my computer having an earthquake. Sorry, my hands.
Well, at least you're not having an earthquake.
No, sorry. Yes, thank you. Okay, onward.
Okay, and the moon is in frequent communication with Ceres, traveling through every sign 2.5 days, making aspects to Ceres on a regular basis, with an orb of 8 to 10 degrees. So a conjunction is 0 degrees, a semi-sextile is 30 degrees, a semi-square is 45, a sextile is 60, and on it goes. So they're constantly in communication and within aspect of each other. So they've constantly communicating.
Exactly. And really, it is that passive interpretator. By passive, just looking at the light that she reflects. She is that luminary, like the sun, the sister of Helios, the sun god and seer. Because it was through, what's interesting, what I was reading this about Demetra George's book, The Asteroids, because at that time she was more considered to be an asteroid, which she is in that belt, as we've related. That think Sue. Oh yes, that. Where was I going with all of this? Darn! It's so important. But the influence of the moon, that she interprets. Yeah, that she interprets the light.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to talk briefly about the lunar nodes of the moon. They are a mathematical point in space calculated by using the position of the sun, moon, and earth. The point is between the ecliptic of the sun and the orbit of the moon. The north node is the ascending node, and the south node is the descending node of the moon. The nodes can represent karmic path, destiny, fate, and purpose. The south node is associated with the past life or where we are coming from and traits that have been mastered.
Yes, that's very comfortable. And perhaps, though, in their perfection of experience, we need to release what may not be working so that we can grow to its polarity. It could be a rut sometimes. It's very true.
So Ceres is going to station direct on August 26th, so about a week out. And so it'll be interesting, that she starts to go forward now. And do you want to speak to anything in this chart?
That's a long time, because I think you indicated that it was April that she went retrograde. Am I correct, or was it May?
May, but it was
May
out of bounds.
21st.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but she
but
was out of bounds in
out of
April,
bounds.
on April
So
2nd.
thinking of May through just a few days, because Mercury will still be retrograde, doesn't go direct until the 28th. It will really be a matter of learning to nurture ourselves and nurture others and use this information, because Ceres is the great nurturer through the grief. So looking at that chart, well, she's compatible in a connecting energy with the sun, meaning which really in Virgo, which is
Mm.
uh, useful, because more analytical concepts and earth-based, right? They're both earth signs, so that's powerful.
Well,
And the moon. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And for the chart for Seattle, it's in the 7th house of relationships, but depending on where you're located, that would change to another house. So you can't just take that as the only indicator.
But she's back again in conjunct, a quincunx, 150 degrees with the moon at 2 degrees Gemini, which moves very quickly. As we know, it's 13 degrees every day, 12 to 13 degrees. However, just as when at this moment, the seed moment, when turning direct, it means that the moon is at that action point. So after all of this, we're probably going to be really addressing how, back to our priorities, how to really move forward. But Mercury's still going to be retrograde. How we can, thinking of that process, though, maybe getting prepared to do some nurturing processes. That's really interesting, because I know I'll be planning a trip to help nurture a friend. And so it really spells it all out in many ways on a personal level for me to see that dynamic. And again, it goes back to May, doesn't it? Which maybe it was on a different framework of nurturing, trying to work out between the moon and Ceres, how to emotionally get ourself together to nurture.
Exactly. So the Sabian symbol for 8 Capricorn were, because we move it up 1 degree of where Ceres is stationing direct. Capricorn 8, in a sunlit home, domesticated birds sing joyously. And the keynote is a wholesome happiness which subservience to the ideals and patterns of a well-established culture brings to those who accept them unreservedly. And the key word which I would pick out is enjoyment on the bottom there. So enjoying the sunlight and the birds singing. I know I love to hear my birds sing.
Me too. Living in Hawaii, that is the gift. We can hear them throughout the day, and particularly in the morning and night. And they wander in the house. I just absolutely adore them. And I think this is so powerful. It really gives hope because chaos is always here. There's change. Change is the one dynamic that never is imminent. Transferring from one process to the next in every way. But yet, here it's saying enjoyment in the roles born to play. In other words, looking at our natal existence. That's very hopeful of just remembering, breathe in.
So I have a quote here. Ceres shows how well we go with the flow, the universal one that is. This is the unification of both giving and receiving through ourselves as an exchange of energy, by Alan Clay from the Dwarf Planet University. And Sue and I are both graduates of the Dwarf Planet University.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. I really was fascinated to really focus on that idea that Ceres traveled Earth and she disguised herself. I mean, this is through the story that I first heard with Alan, but it's again, she disguised herself. So if we look at your chart where Ceres is, you may not be exhibiting that reality. And when you do, it isn't to ask people like Ceres did at first, oh, build me a temple and worship me. But later, when she got what she needed, which was spring back, Persephone, her daughter, that mother-daughter relationship then she had gratitude and shared her knowledge. So in your own chart, you can see where is it that oneself, male or female, have this ability to nurture others and sustain them through my own wisdoms. I think that's a powerful part of it. And on the flip side, to realize that because there's archetypal relationships that Ceres has, and it is with Cancer, the polarity between Taurus, Scorpio, and Virgo. So with Virgo, which she is often represented as the goddess, the earth goddess of Virgo, it's self-worth. Until you realize that you have that self-worth, it can plague and stop you in different ways. It's a very important dwarf planet of transformation to recognize how it operates in your own chart.
Thank you for that, Sue. So we'd love for you to come back for more episodes of the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. And monthly I do 2 or 3 shows with Justin Elzy, the full moon forecast, the astrology forecast for the month, and a Chiron asteroid series. And then the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. Sue and I are doing Dwarf Planet series, and our next one will be the Seed Point. And then with Simon, I'm going to do Uranus retrograde and Pluto back into Capricorn. And with Joy Vernon, it'll be the Libra Decans with Astrology and Tarot. And You're a Sky Full of Stars with Marcia Bouchard.
What a wonderful category of topics. I adore this. It's a powerful YouTube channel that you've initiated.
Thank you.
Birthing, yes.
And then I will be on Talk Cosmos, which is Sue's show, once a month, and it'll be September 1st, and it'll be the Virgo new moon, and Justin Elzy is on there with us. So we always look forward to having you take part and watch our show.
Yeah, and I love having Justin and Liz on it. They cover many metaphysical aspects of the new moon because so many people cover it. But here it has a smattering of numerology, tarot, Sabians, Vedic chakras, a little mythology, along with the chart. So it's really a whole picture of your spiritual seed to start off. I love having Liz on it.
Thank you, Sue. I'm available for consultations. I have a newsletter and my YouTube channel that you're watching, and subscribe. And I look forward to hearing from you. And Sue, would you like to talk about yours?
Well, weekly I have a program, and Liz is the on the first Sunday. It's always on a Sunday, but yet I have a channel, and of course you can find that out or subscribe. And I have a website that you can check it out. So it covers a wide range. And there's also, I will add, I've changed another panel to show the 4 lunar phases, which augments the new moon series. So it and doing one on US current event, many factors. So thank you for checking me out.
Yeah,
And
lots to
thank
choose
you,
from.
Liz.
Sign up for her newsletter and sign up for her YouTube channel. And then again, to get a hold of Sue, it's talkcosmos.com, and myself is alightpath.com. So do you have any um, last thoughts or comments that you'd like to make before we end?
Well, Ceres really does relate to, along with the moon. One is they are parallel. The moon gives us that chance to reflect and translate. I think that's what I was trying to say, to so many different aspects throughout. You were showing how the different degrees, and depending on what house, it's how we do it and where it is that we can give and exchange nurturing. It is that process of not thinking about self, but realizing we're in a process of working with others and that we can share. It's such a really strength of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, take a look at how you're nurturing yourself and how others are nurturing you and how you're nurturing your relationships, and make improvements as needed. And
And
thank
most,
you.
oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, mostly I'm so excited to start this dwarf planet episodes with you. This is very exciting. I think both of us are rebirthing our own channels, and it's lots of dynamism. So giddy.
Exactly. I want to thank those that are watching live and everybody that comes in and watches later on. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you again, and have a great day. Bye for now.
Thank you, Liz.